I wanted to shoot or to stab him to death.
제가 예비자 때부터 예수님과 대화를 나누고 예수님께서 계속해서 보여주셨기 때문에
Since I was a catechumen, I've had conversations with Jesus. He has revealed many things to me.
많은 분들을 면담을 했고
That's why many people ask me for counseling.
수련들도 면담을 하셨어요.
Also, the religious nuns.
그런데 1982년 7월 27일 날 광주 중동에 사는 C라는 자매가 저에게 면담을 청해왔어요.
On July 27, 1982, a lady C who lived in Chunghung-dong, Gwangju, asked me for counseling.
남편이 고등학교 선생님이셨습니다.
Her husband was a high school teacher.
그런데 그 남편한테 처녀 때 성폭행 당해가지고 딸을 낳는데
She said she was sexually molested by him before marriage, and she gave birth to a daughter.
그 딸이 고등학생이 됐어요. 그랬는데 그때까지도 이 남편을 용서를 못한 것입니다.
Her daughter was already grown up and was a high school student, but Lady C couldn't still forgive her husband by then.
그래서 도저히 용서가 안 된다. 딸을 볼 때마다 네가 태어났기 때문에 나는 이 남자하고 살고 있다.
She said, I can't possibly forgive him. Whenever she saw her daughter, she would say, because you were born, I was forced to live with this man.
그래서 남자도 미웠고 딸도 미운데
She hated her husband and daughter.
저녁에 자다 보면 그냥 잠자는 그 꼴이 보기 싫어서 옆에 총 있으면 팡 쏴서 죽여보고 싶고
At night, she even hated seeing him sleeping next to her. If she had a gun, she wanted to shoot him to death.
칼이 있으면 콱 찔러서 죽여버리고 싶고
If she had a knife, she wanted to stab him to death.
신앙을 가지고 있지만 정말 증오와 분노로 가득 차가지고
Though she goes to church, she was full of hatred and anger in her heart.
도대체 성체를 영해도 어떤 것을 해도 아무리 비정을 다녀봐도 허전한 마음을 채울 수가 없었던 것입니다.
Despite receiving communion and participating in many retreats, no matter what she tried, her empty heart couldn't be filled.
그래서 제가 그러면 남편이 못생겼습니까? 그랬더니
So I asked her, is your husband ugly?
아니요, 엄청 잘생겼어요.
She replied, no, he's very handsome.
그러면 바람을 핍니까?
Then, does he cheat on you?
아니요, 저밖에 몰라요.
No, he's all about me.
그러면 폭행을 합니까?
Then, does he assault you?
아니요, 얼마나 저한테 잘했는지 몰라요.
No, he's very nice to me.
그러면 자매님 정말 그 행위는 좋은 방법은 아니었지만 자매님을 얼마나 사랑했으면 그렇게라도 해서 자기 사람을 만들고 싶어 했겠냐.
I said, Sister, his behavior to get you was not a good way, but how much he must have loved you to the extent that he did such thing to you to make you his own.
만약에 못생겼다면 모르지만 그 잘생긴 사람이 만약 성폭행을 했겠습니까?
He was not even ugly. Why do you think he, a handsome guy who lacked nothing, did the molestation?
얼마나 자매님을 사랑했으면 그렇게라도 해서 내 사람을 만들어서 같이 살고 싶 그렇게 했겠습니까?
How much he so loved you that he ended up acting the way he did to make you his own and live together.
지금 얼마나 많이 사랑하고 있습니까? 자매님이 마음만 열면 됩니다.
And how much he loves you now. All you have to do is open your heart.
자매님이 마음을 열지 않기 때문에 남편은 오로지 자매님한테 다 향해 있지 않습니까?
You feel the way you do because you don't open your heart. His heart is directed at you only, isn't it?
그러면서 기도하고 나서 제가 이 이야기를 했어요.
After praying, I told her this story.
어떤 자매님이 의사 부인인데 친구들을 만나도 전부 다 자기보다 잘나게 보이고
There was a wife of a doctor. When she met her friends, they all seemed to be in a better position than herself.
남편들도 다 자기 남편보다 아주 그냥 높은 사람들이고 아주 우리 반짝하니 그러고
Their husbands were all very high-ranking people compared to her husband. They all looked magnificent.
근데 자기만 못나게 보이니까 계속 짜증난 거예요.
So she felt she was inferior to them, and this irritated her.
그리고 이제 의사는 지금보다 옛날은 더 심했어요. 집에 많이 못 들어오잖아요.
Back in those days, the working conditions for doctors were worse than they are now. They often couldn't come home.
그러니까 부인을 만족을 못 시켜줬어요. 그 마누라는 막 사랑을 좀 받고 싶은데 만족을 못 한 거예요.
So he couldn't satisfy his wife. His wife wanted to be loved by him, but she wasn't satisfied.
그래서 결국에는 이제 도저히 못 살겠다. 이혼을 해야 되겠다. 이혼하자고 남편한테 그러니까
So in the end, she thought, I can't live with him anymore. I should get divorced. Thus, she asked her husband for a divorce.
남편이 정말 부인을 그렇게 만족을 채워주려면 직장을 그만둬야 되는데 직장을 그만둘 수 없고 이혼하기로 했습니다.
To satisfy his wife, the husband would have had to quit his job. But he couldn't quit his job, so they decided to get divorced instead.
이혼 도장 찍고 가서 제출하려고 하는데 배가 아픈 거예요.
When the wife signed the divorce papers and tried to submit them, she felt a pain in her lower abdomen.
근데 화장실 가서 보니까 파열을 하는 거예요.
When she went to the bathroom, she found out she was bleeding.
이상하다. 그리고 산부인과 가서 검사를 해보니까 자궁암 말기가 된 거예요.
Oh, why did this happen? She went to the OB/GYN for a checkup and was diagnosed with terminal uterine cancer.
그래서 살 날이 얼마 안 남았는데 이혼해서 못 하겠습니까?
If there wouldn't be much time left for her to live, what was the point in getting divorced?
아직 제출 안 했으니까 이혼 안 하고 친구도 안 만나고 이제 집에서 가만히 죽음 준비를 하고 있으니까
Since she hadn't submitted the papers yet, she decided not to go through with the divorce. Without meeting her friends, she just waited for her death at home.
그동안에 남편이 잘해준 것들이 다 떠오르는 거예요. 이제 느껴지기 시작한 거예요.
Then she began to recall everything that her husband had done well to her so far. She started to feel his love.
그러니까 남편이 이렇게 나를 사랑했구나. 그래서 남편한테 도톰하게 편지를 썼어요.
In doing so, she realized, oh, my husband truly loved me this much. So she wrote a long letter to her husband.
여보 나는 죽을 날이 얼마 안 남았다고 하면서 그동안 이혼을 했기 때문에 말은 못하고 편지에 다 쓴 거예요.
Darling, I have not many days to live. Since she had already asked him for a divorce, she put everything down in a letter.
여보 내가 죽거든 재혼할 거 아니냐고. 정말 좋은 사람 만나서 잘 살라고.
Honey, after I die, you may be remarrying. Please meet a good person and live well.
재혼하게 되면 그 여자한테도 나한테 해줬던 그 사랑을 똑같이 그렇게 해주라고.
If you remarry, please love the woman the way you loved me.
진심으로 회개하고 이제 고해성사를 보고 남편에게 그 편지를 써놨는데 남편이 그 편지를 봤어요.
She sincerely repented and made confession. Then she wrote the letter to her husband, which he ended up reading the letter.
그 편지를 보고는 남편이 아내를 부둥켜 안고 얼마나 울었어요.
After the husband read the letter, he hugged her and began to cry a lot.
여보 미안해.
Honey, I'm sorry.
그 부인이 어쩌겠어요?
What could the wife do?
부인도 그냥 여보 미안해 하고 둘이 부둥켜 안고 얼마나 울었습니까? 눈물 바다가 됐죠.
She also said, Honey, I'm sorry. They embraced each other with many tears. It was like a sea of tears.
아내는 이제 내가 살 날이 얼마 안 남았으니까 이제 정말 좋은 사람 만나서 잘 살라고 그러는데
Since she did not have many days left to live, she wrote the letter for him to live well with a good new wife.
여보 내가 살려줄게 하면서 대학병원 의사니까 자기 병원 산부인과에 데리고 가서 재검사를 했어요.
He said, Honey, I'll save your life. Since he was a doctor at the university hospital, he took her to another OB/GYN at his hospital for a second opinion.
암이 싹 사라졌습니다.
Her cancer had totally disappeared.
이것은 무엇입니까?
How could this be possible?
바로 사랑입니다. 사랑을 느낀 것입니다.
It's through love, because they felt love.
우리가 5대 영성으로 무장하지 않고 맨날 나쁜 것만 것만 생각해서 미워하고 5대 영성을 실천하지 않는다면 그렇게 느끼질 못합니다.
If we are not armed with the five spiritualities, always have bad thoughts, hate others, and don't practice the five spiritualities, we can't feel love.
근데 사랑의 기적이 일어난 거예요.
But the miracle of love happened to them.
여러분 안에서도 사랑의 기적이 일어나길 바랍니다.
I hope the miracles of love may happen in your life.
그래서 그 이야기를 하고는 제가 그 자매 가슴에 손을 얹고 기도를 했어요.
After telling the lady C this story, putting my hand on her chest, I prayed.
예수님, 이 자매가 느끼게 해주시라. 그러게 방법은 좀 잘못됐지만 얼마나 그동안에 남편이 그렇게 사랑을 했는데도
Jesus, please make her feel love. Though her husband used the wrong way in order to marry her, he has given her much love in their marriage.
우리 자매님이 느끼지 못한 것 같다고 예수님께서 친히 주관해 주시라고 계속 기도를 많이 했는데
Yet, she couldn't feel his love. Jesus, please personally guide her. I kept praying a lot.
이 자매가 그 기도수를 듣고 펑펑 우는 거예요. 그러더니 그냥 느낀 거예요.
Listening to my prayer, she shed a flood of tears. Then finally, she felt love.
잘못했다는 거예요. 그러면서 그냥 막 저 부르게 안고 같이 얼마나 울고
We hugged each other and cried a lot together.
그러고 나서 그 자매는 광주 집으로 돌아갔습니다. 그랬는데 그 다음날 전화가 왔어요.
Then she went back home to Gwangju. The next day, I received a phone call from her.
자매님 정말 감사합니다. 이제까지 사랑이라고는 모르고 살았는데 정말 이 가슴은 텅 비어있고 정말 허황된 그런 삶을 살아왔는데
Thank you so much, sister. Until now, I had lived without feeling love. My heart was always empty and I lived a life in vain.
정말 죽을까 자살도 몇 번이나 생각했고 아주 우울증 와서 그렇게 힘들었는데
I've thought about suicide several times and suffered from severe depression.
한 번 느껴버리니까 남편이 정말 너무너무 소중하고 좋은 거예요.
But once I felt love, I realized my husband was so precious and good for me.
그래서 집에 가자마자 남편한테 큰 절을 했대요. 그랬더니 남편도 따라서 막 절을 한 거예요.
She said she bowed deeply to her husband as soon as she got home. Then her husband also made a deep bow to her.
그러면서 이제까지 내가 잘못했다고 그 고백을 다 한 거예요.
She confessed everything that she had done wrong so far.
그랬더니 여보 내가 잘못했어. 내 방법이 틀렸어. 그리고 서로 부둥켜 안고 얼마나 울고
Then he said, Honey, it was my fault. I got the wrong way. They hugged each other and wept buckets.
사랑이 새로 싹 펴가지고 이제 신혼생활이 시작됐다고 정말 자매님 감사합니다. 그래서
She said that love sprouted within them anew and their newlywed life truly began. She said, Thank you so much.
제가 한 것이 아닙니다. 주님께서 다 해주신 것입니다. 저는 잠시 잠깐 도구로 사용된 것입니다.
I replied, Oh, this was not done by me, but the Lord has done it all. I was just used as His instrument for a while.
주님께서
The Lord said,
My beloved little soul, this soul's tears, dedicated in love through your sacrifice and penance, were the tears of true repentance. Since my mother's anxious tears and your tears with earnest wishes were united, she will live a life of resurrection. However, pray for her unceasingly, so that she may take good care of the grace she received and not join forces with devils by misusing her free will.
자 여러분도 모두 그렇게 행복하게 사시기 바랍니다.
Now I hope you all live such a happy life.
모든 것을 내 탓으로 받아들이면 그렇게 됩니다.
When you admit it's my fault in everything, you also can do it.